You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump preference for white people costs him in blistering court ruling, based on an article by David Edwards. The policy was never neutral. Racism with a filing cabinet. A federal judge has done what the political press so often refuses to do on its own: describe the policy in plain English. Donald Trump's immigration agenda was not just restrictive. According to the ruling, it reflected a preference for white immigrants and hostility toward people from the Caribbean, South America, Africa and Asia. That is not a bureaucratic error. That is state power used to sort human beings by race. The source article's main fact pattern is straightforward: the administration froze green card and work permit applications for people from 7 countries while fast-tracking white South African refugees and proposing that an expanded refugee cap include 10,000 slots reserved exclusively for white Afrikaners. The court also noted Trump's public praise for Norway, Sweden and nice people, alongside his fixation on white South African farmers. Who held power? The answer is obvious, and it matters. Trump held the institutional power. His administration made the policy choices. The vice president echoed the hostility. Agencies executed it. The judge did not create the discrimination, the judge exposed it. That distinction is the whole story. Too much immigration coverage treats racist outcomes as drift, confusion or crackdown logic gone too far. But when the president repeatedly praises white migrants, demonizes non-white migrants, and then his administration builds policy that rewards one group and punishes others, the outcome is not accidental. It is governance. The misdirection game. That administration wants the public to argue about legal procedure while it practices racial selection. That is the familiar trick. Turn explicit bias into a fight over remedy. Turn discrimination into administrative complexity. Turn a white nationalist immigration preference into an abstract dispute over agency discretion. The government's own posture at the hearing sharpens the point. It told the judge it expected to lose and spent its argument on how narrow the remedy should be. That is not the behavior of officials defending a principled policy. It is the behavior of officials caught with the evidence and trying to limit the damage. The racial sorting is the point. The ruling says the quiet part allowed. This administration's hostility is not universal. It is targeted. The countries named in the frozen applications sit alongside the populations Trump singled out for contempt. Meanwhile, white South Africans were moved to the front of the line. From October 2025 through May 2026, 6,665 of 6,668 refugees admitted to the United States were from South Africa. That is not a mere inconsistency. It is the operating principle. The state is being asked to enforce a hierarchy of deservingness built on race, geography, and political usefulness. The administration wraps it in migration rhetoric because white preference sounds indecent, while security and refugee policy sound technical. The court caught a pattern. The judge called the pattern impossible to ignore, and the 11th ruling of this kind suggests the problem is not an isolated bad memo but a repeated legal failure to stop the same political project. The broader pattern is authoritarian politics wearing institutional clothing, public grievance, racial scapegoating, executive favoritism, and administrative machinery used to normalize both. The real scandal is not that a judge noticed the racism. The scandal is that the administration thought it could keep doing this in public, under the banner of immigration policy, and rely on confusion, euphemism, and procedural delay to survive. What this story shows. This is what modern racial authoritarianism looks like when it has access to federal agencies. It does not always announce itself with banners. Sometimes it uses application freezes, refugee caps, and selective urgency. Sometimes it talks about genocide for white farmers while locking out people from darker countries. Sometimes it counts on the press to call that an immigration debate. It is not. It is state-backed racial preference enforced through immigration policy, and the court's ruling makes that plain. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Arctic, thanks for listening.